Yeah, what's good, YouTube? What's good? This video, this live stream is about how black women, how black women became the white man's concubine. How black women became the white man's concubine, and it didn't start in America. You know, the relationship between black women and white men did not start in America. It started in Africa. Um, Back starting in the 1400s when European sailors and European merchants first stepped into Africa, back in the 1400s, and a lot of these um, a lot of these Europeans were either Spaniard or Portuguese. They would go to the west coast of Africa and they would trade with these European traders, and merchants. They would trade with the native West Africans, trade goods or whatever. And they began to have a relationship with the continent of Africa. I know in Nigeria, in Nigerian history, I know the Portuguese first landed in Nigeria like in the 1400s, and some of the Portuguese actually lived in Nigeria and did business in Nigeria since the 1400s. And these Portuguese sailors and stuff, these Portuguese in Nigeria back in the 1400s, they didn't bring their Portuguese wives with them to Nigeria. They'll leave their Portuguese wives back home. And, these European men were in Africa. They didn't bring their European wives with them. So you think these European men were just in Africa since the 1400s, not having sex? No, when these Portuguese men were in Nigeria, in Africa, they would have sex with the local women, you know, you know, and a lot of these Portuguese who are in Africa, they'll have sex with the local women and they would have children, mixed breed children, mulatto children, half white, half black babies with these African women, so the white man has been sleeping with black women for a minute, so this is nothing new. And it started before black women, it started before even America. It started in the continent of Africa. And it's more than just power. A lot of people would say the reason a lot of black women gravitate towards white men is because white men have power. And I'm not going to sit here and say that has zero truth to it, but that's not the full story. I mean, the white man didn't have shit when he first came to to Africa back in the 1400s. The white man didn't have shit. The white man didn't have power over us when he first came to Africa. How come? But how come black women were throwing their panties at these European sailors back in the 1400s when they didn't even have any power yet? So it's deeper than just power. It's deeper than just power. A lot of these European sailors, they will have thousands of African concubines. They have hundreds or even thousands of African concubines, and they'll be sleeping and getting a whole lot of African women pregnant. And And these were even, this was before the Europeans even had power over us as black people. This was before European men were even a power symbol. So it's deeper than just power, you know, because women, I'll give it to you guys. Women are attracted to men with power, and a lot of people say that's the root reason why black women gravitate to white men. But before the white man even had power, he had access to that black pussy. Before the white man had power, he had access to that black pussy. So it's deeper than just power. Um, I believe the initial black women were initially receptive to white men because they were just black women were just physically and sexually attracted to white men, European men. You know, the root of it isn't with power or anything like that. The white man was smarter than us. Nah, it wasn't all that. African women starting off dealing with white men because they were sexually and physically attracted to European men. You know, and this deals with slavery too. During slavery, black women would sleep with European men. You know, a lot of times black women would sleep with these European men over black men, over the African men. You know, and it's more than just power. It's not only because these European men were the slave masters. A lot of the African women who were slaves, you know, they just found these white men, European men, to be attractive. That's why a lot of these black women were willingly sleeping with these white men because they were attracted to these white men. We have to understand that women are sexual creatures. you know, Women, their pussies get wet. They're visual too. Man, we're not the only visual sexual people. Women are visual. They get sexually turned on and everything. And especially back then, back in the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, 1700s. Back in those days, black men, we don't look like how we do now. You know, even today, American black men today, we don't look exactly the same as continental Africans. We look different a lot of times. That's because we have a different genetic makeup. The average Black American, we're 10 to 20% European. So we look distinct from a continental African. And yeah, back in the days, a few hundred years ago, the black men during slavery back in the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, the black men and black back then, our ancestors, we didn't look like how we did back then, like how we do now. We look different. The quote unquote, the type of black man who a lot of women would call fine and attractive didn't exist back then during slavery. You know, like like how I just said earlier, continental Africans and Black Americans, we look different. During slavery, most black men, most black people, we had the continental African look. The broad nose, darker skin. We looked more like continental Africans back during slavery, especially in the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, and the 1700s. We don't look the same as we do now, and that includes black men. Most people will probably say black men we're more attractive now than we were during slavery. You know, and a lot of people, probably most women, would agree that American black men, American black men, we're typically more attractive than continental African men. You know, and during slavery, like I said earlier, the stereotypical fine, what women would consider the stereotypical fine black man, did not exist during slavery. During slavery, we looked African. We looked straight up like the dude from Blood Diamond and shit. So we were less attractive back then, during slavery and the times we were being shipped off from Africa when our women were sleeping with white men, black men, we weren't as physically and sexually attractive back then. We looked more like pure-blooded Africans. We looked more like pure-blooded Africans. When our women started sleeping with the white man, black man, we appeared to be pure-blooded Africans. Our facial features were different. Our skin tone was probably a little darker. Um, we probably weren't as tall. We were shorter. You know, I've heard several stories, accounts, of like I will read a book of like European conquest of Africa and how the native Africans were perceived, the European man, and it was common for the European man to be taller than the native African men. You know, before we got admixed with European blood, black people, we're naturally shorter than European men. You know, on average, naturally, before we got mixed in with white people, European men were typically taller than us, African men. You know, so and women are attracted to height. European men were taller than us. You know, they probably had European men were taller than us. This is not black men nowadays. I'm talking about back when we were the beginning of slavery, around the times we were being shipped and captured off of Africa. You know, we looked different back then. We looked more like pure-blooded Africans. And the European men, they were taller than us. Um, they had sharper facial features than us. Continental African men have more of a rough look. Our faces were probably more rough. We probably had very broad noses, real dark skin. European men were taller than us. They had softer features, and I wouldn't be shocked if the African women they were just more physically and sexually attracted to European men over continental full-blooded continental African men. See, I got to keep reminding y'all, like black men, the quote unquote fine black men that are stereotyped today, did not exist back in the 1400s, 1500s, or 1600s. Back then, we looked like pure blooded Africans. And pure blooded Africans are, I'm not trying to diss them, they're less attractive, physically attractive than black Americans. So back when black men were first taken off as slaves, and back when the Europeans first stepped foot on Africa, we were less attractive. I'm not trying to diss anyone or disrespect Africans, but it's commonly known that black Americans are more attractive than continental Africans. So the root reason, and the European men, when they first stepped foot in Africa, they didn't have no fucking power. They're on a come up. That's why they went to Africa, because these European men were on the come up. They didn't have shit yet. They didn't have no fucking power yet. They didn't even colonize the whole world yet. And our women were still sleeping with these European men because it's nothing simple. It's very simple why our women were sleeping with these European men. They were just attracted to them. Our black women, African women, were sexually attracted to these European men over us. The European men were taller than us. They had softer features than us. We were looking like pure blooded, rough looking Africans back then. So our women came across a group of men, European men, who were taller than us and more attractive than we were. And that's how our women became the white man's concubine. A lot of people think, during slavery and around those times, black women were getting raped by white men. And I'm not saying rape didn't happen, but I'm saying most of the sexual encounters that black women were having that black women were having with European men, most of those encounters were not rape. Most of those encounters were consensual sex, and it's in history, a lot of black women, African women, they wanted to sleep with European men because a lot of them wanted to have mixed race babies, light skinned babies, mixed race babies who had it easier in society. So a lot of our women wanted to have sex with white men. So a lot of times, most of the time, it wasn't no rape, and almost in every black American family in today's modern age, in almost every family, black American family in today's modern age, you either have like a great grandparent or a great great grandma, a great grandma, or a great great grandma, or or a great 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 grandma, who was half white or part white, you know. Every black American family has like a great great grandma who married a white man and had children with a white man, and it wasn't from rape. It was not from rape. You know, your great great grandma who was black had a child from a white man, not from rape. It was consensual. relations, consensual sexual relations. So our women were having consensual sex with white men for the whole history of this shit, you know. And a lot of people in the manosphere is wondering why are women choose white men? Why were our women historically bed wenches and having sex with white men during slavery, and they were just attracted to white men over us. They found white men to be sexually and physically more attractive than us. And yeah, they just did. You have to understand that black men during slavery and when we were being captured from Africa back in the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, we don't look like how we look now. We were not as attractive back then. You know, we looked like pure blooded Africans, you know. We look like pure stereotypical Africans, you know, the white nose, extra black skin, shorter, you know. So our when European men came to the continent, our women viewed them as taller, exotic. They had quote unquote better facial features than we did, softer facial features, and that's how it started. They were just more attracted to white men over us. And this is some black pill shit I'm telling y'all. But all right.